Yo, so I just got done watching the Tinder Swindler. I got so many thoughts in my brain. Um, I'll give you guys a synopsis if you don't know, and then I'll share my thoughts. Um, so if you haven't seen the movie, it's about this guy that presents himself as the son of a billionaire on Tinder. And he starts to date multiple women off the app. And he shortly after dating them, he tells them that his life is in danger, and that he's unable to, access any of his financial resources. And so he starts asking the women for cash, for a credit card, so that he can live. Turns out that all of it was a lie, and he pretty much swindled these women out of like $10 million. Absolutely nuts. And so I had so many thoughts as I was watching it. The first thing that I thought about was, wow, these women are crazy, right? They're giving him tens of thousands of dollars at a time, borrowing loans just to give to him. And I was like, wow, so when I watch shows, I can't ever just watch them for fun, right? I have to watch. I like the emotional, analytical, obviously, right? I'm an emotional intelligence coach, right? And I'm always thinking about like, well, dang, what could they have done to prevent it, right? That's my mindset. Like even in my life, right? If my feelings get hurt, if a relationship doesn't work out, like I always look to see, well, dang, well, what could I have done differently, right? Because I don't want my feelings to be hurt again. So that's how I watch all these shows, Married at First Sight, like all of it. And so I was sitting and thinking, like, well, how the heck was he able to get all of this money from women? And so what it really comes down to is that they had an idea in their head of what a relationship could look like for them. Like they had a fantasy in their head about a relationship, the perfect relationship, right? And he played into it, right? He was attractive. He appeared as if he had money, right? Like the one girl, the first date, he asked her to go on his private jet with her. Now, my friends would have killed me if I told them I was going on somebody's private jet after just meeting them. But, people got different types of friends. So, he presents himself as having all of this money. And so it just, fits into their fantasy of love, right? And it's just like, I was like so astonished at the amount that these women gave, right? And I get it. He told them that his life was threatened, his life was in danger, and if you or somebody that you care about is in danger, right, you're going to do what you can to help them out. And so, like, I get that part. He knew exactly what he was doing with making up the story about his life being threatened. But it's still absolutely crazy to me, right? But as the movie progressed, I think they said like total he swindled women out of like $10 million. Absolutely nuts to me. But as the movie ended, right, and I was sitting and thinking, I was trying to do a live about it, but my audio went out. Right, I actually don't think these women are as crazy as, right, the comments on social media has said, right? I actually don't think that they are that much different than most women, right? Most of us have an idea in our head of what we want our relationship to look like, right? And it starts from an early age, right? We've been groomed to grow up and think about a fairy tale wedding and having a family, right? And as we get older, that turns into wanting to be married by 25 or wanting to be married with kids by 30 at the latest, right? And when it doesn't happen, right, we kind of get stuck. I know that happened for me, right? I wanted to be married by 25. When that didn't happen, I gave God an extra 5 years. So then it was 30. And 7 months before my 30th birthday, my guy dumped me, right? So I was torn up about it because that was like my last chance to be married by 30. I thought that also meant that I had to put certain goals on hold, right? I had this idea that I had to wait for my husband to buy a house or to become financially free and just, just these things. But in that season, of my singleness, I really started to question my thoughts and my ideas. And I redefined what it meant to be single, right? Single is not just about your relationship status. It is also about your single also means like you're individual. So that means you are whole by yourself. And I started to adopt the mindset that I don't need a partner to complete me, right? I'm complete already. And then when I found my guy, we're just going to add to it. And so that's when I decide to thrive in my singleness and reach my goals and buy a house and all of that. But it took me a long time to let go of that idea of being married by 25 or being married by 30, right? And it hurt. And so I think that is something that a lot of women struggle with. A lot of people sometimes are in relationships because of this idea they have in their head, right? They need a family for their kid. They don't want to be alone, or they shouldn't be alone, right? And so honestly, I don't think that those women are much crazier than just the rest of us, right? They sacrifice money, so we may not sacrifice money, but what we do sacrifice? We sacrifice our self-worth. We sacrifice our boundaries. And what do I mean by that, right? We have this idea of a relationship in our head. And sometimes we hold on to situations that we know are toxic. But we hold on to it because we're supposed to be in a relationship, at least in our brain, right? And so we overlook the red flags. We overlook, the warning signs that this is not really something that I should be engaged in, right? And I was looking at the text messages, like in the show, like they show you all the texts and all of that from WhatsApp. And what it shows you is like these women never asked questions. Like never, ever, ever asked questions, right? They ran with the idea in their head. The one girl, he asked her to bring him like $25,000 in cash. And so she was like, well, why do you need cash? And he said, it's untraceable. But she never thought to ask, like, well, if your dad's a billionaire, why can't you get cash from your dad? No, she didn't even think to ask that. She just ran with it, right? And sometimes we do the same thing. Like, don't let the sex be good, right? Once the sex is good, we get real dumb. And we start to let things slide. Or, we start to think that we can deal with certain things that we actually can't. So, honestly, I don't think they're that much crazy. One thing that I think is also, I always find interesting is how people rush to be in a relationship. And I've had this conversation with multiple women. It's like, what's the rush? I always like to think like I want to be as sure as possible that if I'm in a relationship with you, that at least based on what I know, I would be willing to marry you, right? Like things could come up that I could change my mind, but for me, a relationship is I'm willing to see where this could go. And so I am going to take my time to make sure that, our core values align, that we're actually friends, right? That we get along, that we have fun together, and that, we are compatible. But it seemed like in the movie, like these women, I think after a month or two is when they started sending the money because he asked to be, in a relationship with them. And he was selling them all types of dreams. Oh, we're going to get married. I see you having my kids, right? And this is when that action speaks louder than words come in. So you guys got to just really, we got to be careful about, believing what we see versus what we hear, right? And believing what you hear, right? That's the same thing. Like, it might not be that we fall in love with what we hear, but we like to fall in love with potential, what we think can happen. That's the same thing as falling in love with the words, because when we fall in love with potential, we ignore what's in front of us. And what's in front of us may tell us that that potential that's in our head or what we're thinking of may not be accurate. So, yeah, I just think that there are just so many parallels, and I don't think that these women are that crazy, right? And what I do think is crazy is that he only served 5 months in jail, I think, for the passport. Like, he didn't get any time for defrauding these women, and they're stuck paying all this debt off. And so one thing that I always try to express is taking accountability for the part you play in your heartbreak, right? And so it's like, for these women, the first time that he didn't give you the money that he said he would, or that check bounced, well, what made you give him some more money, right? And again, I get it, the factor of fear plays into it a lot, but it's like, after a while, sis, right? Like, you can't really blame somebody else if you keep doing the same thing, right? If he cheated and he keeps cheating and you keep taking him back, can you really blame him, right? You can blame him, of course, right? He's wrong. But at that point, you got to figure out what is making you still stay, right? These women should have figured out what is making them still give this man money, right? And most of the time it comes down to this fantasy that you had in your head. So you have to be careful about falling in love with potential, or this idea of what your life should look like, right? You got to be a realist and see what exactly is in front of you. I know for me, one thing that has helped me, right? I'm not absolved of all of this. Most of the stuff I tell you is because I've learned from personal experience. And so I definitely used to be the type to, oh, a guy said he liked me, I want to hurry up and make him my boyfriend. Like, right? That used to be me. And when I got a little bit older, it was, I don't know. It's just, I used to be there. But one thing that I had to put in place, and so what I do is, after every situation, if my heart gets broken or I don't like how the situation played out, what I do is I sit and think about what I could have done differently. And then I think about what type of measures can I put in place to make sure I don't do that shit again, right? And so when it comes to moving too fast in a relationship, right, told myself, slow down. Actually look at what's in front of you as opposed to what you want it to be, right? A guy say you pretty and you ready to marry him, have his kids, all of that, right? Slow down and really make sure that this is somebody that you actually get along with, that you're actually friends with, right? And another thing that I had to put in place, I had to, if there was something that I was questioning, like when I was younger, it was, should I have sex with this guy? Or if it's like, should I buy him a gift? Or if there's anything that I'm hesitant about in a relationship, I always ask myself, if I never talk to him again after I do this, would I be upset? Right? And honestly, I still use that one to today, right? If I'm like, do I want to give him some? Or do I want to buy him a birthday gift? And it's like, how would you feel if after you gave him some, or after you gave him the gift, you never talk to him again? If I would be fine if I never talk to him again, I do it. If I feel like I would feel some type of way, or wouldn't be okay, then I don't do it. All right, that's just one measure that I put in place. But it's just absolutely, it's wild to me that he was able to swindle these women out of $10 million, right? And that's actually similar to what some of these guys are out here doing to y'all, right? They are robbing you of your self-worth and all of that, because of this idea that you have in your head about a relationship and what your life should look like. And I know everybody is not going to receive this message well, but I'm always here to help you be honest with yourself. Even if you don't like me, I'm okay with that. Just be honest with yourself. That's all I ask. But yeah, just be honest. Stop falling in love with potential. Really look to see what is in front of you. I'm trying to think, what else did I take away from this? It was absolutely crazy. Make sure y'all ask questions, but you got to ask the right questions. So I'm actually coming out with a card game that will help you ask questions that mean something, as opposed to the what's your favorite color and all of that. Like, you need to ask meaningful, open-ended, conversation starter questions, right? So I'm actually coming out with a card game that will help you, ask the right questions to get to know somebody. So questions like, how's your relationship with your co-parent if they have kids, right? That's something that's important. Or what's something from your childhood that you would change, right? If you're thinking about having kids in the future, you need to know what type of parent they are, or, all of that. So that game will be out soon. Well, not really a game, but that product will be out soon, so you guys can start asking more meaningful questions and get to know the person better. But yeah, I think that is all that I had. Don't fall in love with potential. Look at what is right in front of you. Challenge your thoughts, right? It's never too late for love, so don't feel like you have to be in a rush, because when you rush, that's when you end up settling. And we don't want to do that, right? We want a love that is healthy. We want a love, right, with our best friend, somebody that you truly enjoy being around, right? Not just to say that you have a man, right? I had another thought. It just escaped my brain. What was the other thought? Dang, I forgot. I'm getting old. I wasn't even going to drink tonight, but that movie made me open a bottle. And now with sparkling wine, so I got to drink the whole bottle. There was another thought that I had. Make sure you ask questions. Don't ignore red flags, no matter how good the sex is. Don't fall in love with potential. Look at what's in front of you. Don't be in a rush to get in a relationship. Oh, I know what it was. When you hold on to relationships that are no longer serving you, right? If it's not because of the idea you have in your head, the other two reasons could be, and I actually made a YouTube video about this, why you can't let go. Either they feed into your insecurity, so there is something about them that fulfills you, that fulfills a void in you. Or the other thing is that you're holding on to a moment that you guys shared, right? And that's kind of what happened to these women in the show, right? They were holding on to being on a private jet with him, or being in whatever, these fancy hotels, those few times that they were, that when he started canceling and he started, like, the check bounced and all of that, right? They ignored those things because of those memories that they had. And I want you to be careful about that, right? I tell you that love is not enough, but love is an action word, right? So you shouldn't be holding on to a moment. It's an action word, which means you should be in love with your person consistently. You're not going to love them all the time. Don't, I get that, but it should be something consistent. You shouldn't be holding on to how things were years ago now, right? Like love is an action word. It should be continuous, right? And so you have to pay attention to everything that is in front of you, which is what these women did not do, right? They held on to this idea or this experience that they had previously and then ignored all of the red flags. I think that is all my thoughts for the Tinder swindler. I feel like I'm in the wrong business. I feel like I could make out pretty good if I tried to be to swindle people. I think I could do it. I'm in the wrong business. He only got 5 months in jail too. Hopefully y'all will help me out. I feel like I could make it 5 months, especially if y'all put money on my books. But yeah, so those are my thoughts from the movie. And my takeaways: make sure you are asking questions. Make sure you are not falling in love with the fantasy in your head. Pay attention to what is in front of you. Make sure that you are with this person for the right reason. Don't hold on to an experience or a feeling that they gave you a long time ago, right? How do they make you feel consistently? Yeah, I think that's it. What did you guys think? Comment below and let me know.